So let's then look at when sentences go bad. So this is what everything is leading up to. In your essays, the things that will cause you to not only get a lower grade, but to confuse your reader or impact your credibility with your reader is when we are making sentence level errors. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to start with fragment sentences. So if a sentence contains a subject and a verb, a fragment sentence is going to lack either the subject or the verb. Okay, so we're going to be missing one of the two, and it can be either or. For example, the woman in the back of the room who is raising her hand. All of this is a long subject, which is important to note because sometimes we think of fragment sentences as short sentences. But again, we look at that sentence, I am, very short sentence, but not a fragment. So we can have these long fragment sentences. I could continue this. The woman in the back of the room who is raising her hand and is wondering whether she is going to be right in her answer or not. I still haven't reached the verb yet. Okay, it's all still describing this subject. So we don't want to look at it as fragments are short or run-ons are long. We just want to look at whether it has the subject and the verb both within the sentence. In this case, it is missing the verb. Okay, we get a long subject, we never actually get to a verb, and that's what makes this a fragment. The next one, running through the woods on a stormy night. Okay, this one I think is a bit more obvious. We see that we're missing a subject. Who is running through the woods or what is running through the woods? We don't get that subject here. Now, this could be a subject in itself if we look at it again as a gerund. Running through the woods on a stormy night is a bad idea. Okay, if that's the case, we have a subject, but we have no verbs. Okay, so either way, we're getting that fragment sentence with this phrase. The next one, dependent clauses. We've talked about those. They're dependent on something to complete the sentence. So a dependent clause by itself is going to be a fragment. After we made pigs of ourselves at the buffet. Okay, so here we're again waiting for something or we're expecting something to finish this sentence. And because we don't get that, we get just this dependent clause, and we have a fragment. Okay, so that is that dependent clause. So let's look at why we get fragment sentences. I want to look at this sentence that I've placed here, and I just want to read it out loud for you. I fell on the ice right as I heard a great crack, knowing I was in danger. As I read it and you hear it, it makes sense. And that's one of the reasons that we tend to get fragment sentences. We might have a period in there, but if we read it forward from the front to the back, it makes sense to us as we hear it. The way that we can catch a fragment, especially if you have a lot of fragments in your essay, I would suggest reading backwards. We read the last sentence first and then move backwards. Okay, so instead of saying, I fell on the ice right as I heard a great crack, knowing I was in danger, we start backwards. Knowing I was in danger, now we can hear that fragment. We can hear that dependent clause. Okay, so all we need to do is we need to replace that period with a comma, change the capitalization of knowing, and then we have a complete sentence. But we don't hear that as we read it straight through because it's going to sound the same whether we have a comma there, whether we have a period there. So we want to read backwards in order to catch these fragments.